Okay. Afternoon, members. Agenda item 1, Chairman's notices. Good afternoon and welcome to this council meeting on Thursday, the 2nd of July 2020. My name is Councillor Bob Boyce and I am the Chairman of the Malden District Council. This meeting is held under new regulations which came into effect on the 4th of April in response to the COVID-19 situation. There are a few housekeeping issues to run through, including our new working practices which have been implemented due to the pandemic and the etiquette for this meeting. First of all, please could I ask everyone present in this meeting to ensure your microphones remain muted and your video feed off when not addressing the council. This will reduce background noises and avoid any unintentional disturbances. The meeting will be hosted remotely via conferencing software, which allows members of the public to virtually attend the meeting, whilst being able to protect themselves and others and to observe the government's lockdown measures. We may encounter some glitches this afternoon, so I hope that everyone will bear with us as we get used to this new way of working. We are streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting, you are giving your consent to being recorded. Members and officers, during each item, please use the chat function of the meeting to indicate if you wish to speak. I will then invite you at the appropriate time. Members are reminded that apart from indicating you wish to speak or that you have to leave the meeting, the chat function should not be used for any other purpose. Members, the process this afternoon will obviously be different, and for some items I may invite each member to speak in turn. Therefore, I would encourage all members to keep your contribution as clear and concise as possible, please. When speaking and referring to the agenda papers, please ensure you reference a page or paragraph number. Could I also ensure that everyone is directly connected to a power supply, that nobody drops out due to short battery life? And last, if members need to leave the meeting at any point, please make this known and use the chat function to signify that you need to leave the meeting. I will now ask officers taking part in the meeting to introduce themselves. Mr. Holmes.
Good afternoon, members. Richard Holmes, Director of Service Delivery.
Good afternoon, members. Paul Dodson, Director of Strategy, Performance and Governance.
Good afternoon, Chris Leslie, Director of Resources.
Afternoon, Simon Quelch, Monitoring Officer.
And I understand Tracy Farrell is present. Tracy?
Yeah, hello everybody, Tracy Farrell, Environmental Health.
Thank you. Tara, your last one. We know you're here.
Chairman, we've also got Mr. Harmer and Mr. Wilson who are here as well.
Mr.
Harmer, Chairman. Good afternoon, members. River Bailiff.
Good afternoon, Chairman, and Mr. Wilson here for agenda item 12.
Thank you. Tara, can you now carry out the roll call of members to confirm who is in attendance? Thank you.
Yes, Chairman. Members, we'll call the names alphabetically. If you could just confirm that you're here, please. Starting with Councillor Bamford, please.
Yes, present, Tara. Thank you.
Councillor Bassinger.
Good afternoon, Tara. Present.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
Councillor Miss Beale.
Present.
Councillor Brian Beale. I believe he is here.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Boyce, you're here. Councillor Mrs. Channer, please.
Good afternoon, Tara. Good afternoon, Chairman. Present.
Councillor Dewick. Thank you, Mrs. Channer. Councillor Dewick. Councillor Edwards.
I believe he's apologies, Tara. Sorry.
Present, Tara.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs. Fleming.
Present, Tara.
Thank you. Councillor Fluker.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Harker.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Hurd.
Good afternoon, Tara. Good afternoon, Chairman. Present.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Councillor Helm. Councillor Helm.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Hull.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Yes.
Councillor Jarvis.
Afternoon, Tara. Present.
Thank you. Councillor Keys.
Afternoon, Tara. Afternoon, Chairman. Present.
Good afternoon. Councillor Lagan.
Yeah, present, Tara. Afternoon, all.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Councillor Mays.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Morley.
Good afternoon. Present.
Councillor Morris.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. Councillor Nunn.
Yes, here, Tara. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Councillor Shaughnessy.
Yes, present, Tara. Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone.
Councillor Siddle.
Here, Tara. Good afternoon, everybody.
Councillor Stamp.
Present, Tara. Good afternoon, Chairman and Tara and all members.
Thank you. Councillor Stilts.
Present, Tara. Good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you. Councillor Swain.
Yes, present. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Councillor Mrs Thompson.
Present, thank you, Tara, and good afternoon, everyone.
And Councillor Miss White. Councillor Miss White. That completes
Apologies,
the...
I think.
Apologies. Okay, that completes the roll call, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Agenda item 2, apologies for absence.
Yes, Chairman, we've had apologies from Councillor Bell, Councillor Dewick, Councillor Skeens and Councillor Miss White, and Councillor Durham has advised he will be arriving a little late. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Tara. Agenda item 3, declaration of interest. To disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interest, other pecuniary interest or non-pecuniary interest relating to items of business on the agenda, having regard to paragraphs 6 to 8, inclusive of the Code of Conduct for members. And members are reminded that they are also required to disclose any such interest as soon as they become aware, should the need arise throughout the meeting. If any member has an interest to declare, please use the chat function and indicate, and I will invite you to speak. Tara, who have we got to?
Chairman, we have 3 members. Councillor Mrs Channer, Councillor Fluker and Councillor Mays. Thank you.
And me, Tara, as well. I'm here now.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Durham. I just noticed that. Right. The first one was Councillor
Mrs Channer, Chairman.
Mrs Channer.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Tara. I wish to declare non-pecuniary interest in that I'm also a member of Essex County Council, and that will relate to any matter on the agenda which may have any reference to Essex County Council, but most definitely one I will highlight is agenda item dealing with the Air Quality Action Plan. I think that's agenda item number 8, because obviously that's been done in conjunction with Essex County Council, Chairman.
Thank you. Tara, the next one.
Councillor Fluker, Chairman. Thank you.
Councillor Fluker.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. With regards to agenda item 12, non-pecuniary interest, I'm a Malden Harbour Improvement Commissioner, and also I sail regularly on the River Blackwater. Thank you.
I know Councillor Durham and Councillor Mays.
That's right, Chairman.
Councillor Mays, please.
Yes, good afternoon, Chairman. A non-pecuniary interest in item 8, which is the Air Quality Action Plan, as I sit on the working group, and I'm also the ward councillor for Malden North. Thank you.
Councillor Durham.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, apologies for arriving late at the meeting, and I also have to leave at 3 p.m. I also apologise for not wearing a tie, but I've just come from direct from another meeting. I have a non-pecuniary interest as a member of Essex County Council in relation to the same items as have been raised by Councillor Channer.
Thank you. Tara, is that everybody?
Yes, Chairman, that is everybody that's asked to speak on this item.
Thank you. We move on to agenda item 4, the minutes of the 23rd of June, contained on page 3 to 14. This is on a different pack, and I know that Mrs. Channer wishes to speak on agenda item 3 on first page. Mrs. Channer.
Thank you, Chairman. No, on the minutes, Chairman, it's actually page 4, if I may.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was a declaration of interest.
No, on the minutes I wish to come in, but
yes, I know. That's what I'm.
Right. Okay.
Referring
minutes
to.
Page 4, Chairman. It's the second paragraph virtually. When it says that I did declare a pecuniary interest, Chairman, in relation to agenda item 10 Bradwell B project, stage 1 consultation, as her property fell within some of these areas. I'm afraid, Chairman, my property doesn't fall within some of those areas. I believe what I actually referred to was the large circle, and the bottom of that circle, my property, that circle fell nearby to my property. My property does not actually lie, from what I could see, in some of the areas.
Mrs. Channer, I understand, and I understood your declaration at the time. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
We're on page 4. Page 5, page 6.
Page 5. Page 5.
Councillor Hurd. Councillor Hurd.
Thank you very much. On page 5, it speaks about the motion 2. The council waives the overall political control of the authority to reconstitute the Joint Standards Committee. I believe I spoke about the council waives the overall political control of the Joint Standards Committee in order to reconstitute it. Otherwise,
yes, I remember you making that clear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, 13. I so move. Is that seconded?
Councillor Hurd, seconded.
Seconded, Thompson.
Thank you. Do members wish a vote on this, or are they accept these on acclamation?
Agree.
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you very much.
Agreed.
I then move on. I then move on to agenda item 4. Agenda item 5 with a public question. I can advise we've received 4 questions from Judy Lee on behalf of the Malden Society. In accordance with the Council's public participation scheme, these questions, along with the responses from the Leader of the Council, have been published as part of the supplementary pack contained on pages 15 to 18 and circulated prior to the meeting. Now, Tara, can we receive the questions and answers, or do you think we need to read them out or have them read out and the responses read out?
Chairman, the procedures just refer to them not being read out by the questioner in the case of remote meetings.
Yeah.
So I think it's up to you as to whether you want them all read out or not, Chairman. We can put it on the screen if that makes it easier.
Chairman.
No, I think Councillor, the Leader, wishes to give his responses, Tara. So, Leader.
Thank you, Chairman. Ordinarily, I think we take the questions as tabled and then I just respond with the answers. But in this particular instance, Chairman, before I do that, can I just take members to paragraph 3.1 and the final paragraph in 3.1a, there's a typo there, Chairman. It should, instead of saying alternations to policy D2, it should say alterations, Chairman.
Thank you very much for that. Do you wish to read out your answers, Leader?
Chairman, I'm happy to do so, but they should be, they are tabled, but I can see that Councillor Stamp wants me to read them out, so I'll happily do that, Chairman.
Thank you.
So members will take the 4 questions, which are pretty much on the same subject as read. So I will now respond in accordance with paragraph 3.1 in the report, bearing in mind the amendment that I've just said. So in response to question A, the documentation on the preparation of the renewable energy and low carbon policy is already a matter of public record and is available on the Council's website. Chairman, I'm not going to try and read that address, but it is in the report. From here, the documents that have informed the development of the district renewable energy and low carbon policy can be inspected, included the consultation documents and committee reports. The policy was considered by the Planning Inspectorate during the examination in public between 2016 and 2017. An inspector's report was issued detailing his considerations for alterations to policy D2. Chairman, in respect to question B, whilst the council may choose to now advise it no longer supports the new station by a motion, for example, in 2017 it adopted the local development plan, which advises that the statutory policy position of the council is different. The policy has statutory weight in decision making, and the council cannot just withdraw aspects of the policies it no longer supports when it is inclined to. The council may feel that it is inclined to change its position based on evidence and judgment, but I can only see that it can do that in 2 ways: by completing a full partial review of the local development plan, submit it to the government and be advised by a planning inspector that it is legal and can be adopted, which could take at least 3 years to pass through all legal stages. By notifying, the other alternative is, Chairman, by notifying the government it intends to withdraw the whole local development plan. This would result in a policy vacuum and would mean the council has very little influence over any other type of development on land or land management in the district. The council would also then be on the radar of the government for not having an up-to-date local plan and could face intervention or some planning powers being withdrawn. In relation to question C, Chairman, as set out in the LDP policy D4, the council will strongly support the principle of the development of a new nuclear power station at Bradwell-on-Sea. This is current policy, and until such time as the LDP be withdrawn or amended as set out in point B above. In response to question D, Chairman, in accordance with the Council's constitution, in Rule 13.3, members can request a recorded vote on any motion provided that is seconded. And Chairman, can I just say to the Modern Society that I've said it before, the Council is more than happy to engage with them on any matter, and should they wish any more information, then they can write to Mr. Dodson. That is the response to the questions, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. On to agenda item 6, Chairman's announcements. I have none. Agenda item 7, questions in accordance with Procedure Rule 6.3, of which notice has been given. There have been no questions notified under Rule 6.3. We go on then to agenda item 8, adoption of air quality action. And we move to agenda item 8, the adoption of the Air Quality Action Plan 2020 to 2025, found on pages 7 to 148. And I will call on the leader to present these items. Leader.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. First of all, can I just start by thanking Tracy Farrell and Tim Savage from Essex County Council for the enormous amount of work they've done on this, and the members that have sat on the working group. Chairman, just before I hand over to Ms Farrell to go through the detail of the report, I just wanted to clear up one or two items that have come to light. During the consultation process, DEFRA, a statutory consultee, requested that the clean air zone class should be amended from class B to D. Members can find the information about that on page 51, but I'm sure Ms Farrell will take us through this. I can confirm, Chairman, this is considered not to be a significant change, and the Essex County Council support this amendment, so they now subscribe to the plan. Chairman, I'll hand over to Ms Farrell through you, and then I'll come back to deal with the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms Farrell.
Good afternoon, everybody. The Air Quality Action Plan sets out the measures that Malden Council intend to take to improve air quality between 2020 and 2025. The Air Quality Management Area on Market Hill was declared in 2018 when the assessments predicted that the annual mean for nitrogen dioxide would not be met. And therefore, the local authorities are required in these circumstances to produce an Air Quality Action Plan within 12 months. The Council has a statutory duty to monitor and report on air quality, and in exercising this function must have regard to DEFRA's technical and policy guidance. The plan has been progressed as part of the steering group, and prior to going to public consultation between the 2nd of March and the 13th of April, it was approved by the Strategy and Resources Committee. The consultation process that's been undertaken complies with the full legal requirements, and the response of the stakeholder engagement is in the appendices. So the report lays out what we're going to do, and you may wish to look through the action plan, and you may have some questions in regard to some of the actions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Leader, you're moving the recommendations.
Thank you, Chairman. There is only one recommendation at paragraph 2 in the agenda item. Chairman, I would propose, and I know that several members want to speak on this, but I would propose, Chairman, that we agree this recommendation so that we can move forward with the Essex County Council transport strategy. Thank you, Chairman.
Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Thank you. Now I have Mrs Channer wishes to speak, Councillor Nunn and Councillor White. So Mrs Channer first.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Just being a bit pedantic, on page 19, where it lists who the members of the working group are, I am one of those, and so is Councillor Fluker. And I'm just being pedantic here. It puts down our designations of positions at the council, but also calls us ward members. But I think the W should be in a capital, and so should the member on that, to be consistent with the others who are called ward members. I'll just declare I do sit on the working group as a Malden district councillor, but I am the county councillor for the division of Malden. And I would say, having been at most of the meetings, well, nearly all of them, I think, I would say what good joint working there's been and how the plans come forward. And thank you to Tracy, who's obviously assisted greatly on this, and also an officer at Chelmsford, and also Essex County Council's highway officer, Katie Pudney. I've had quite a few responses during the time it was on consultation and approaches from members of the public, which I've duly forwarded on. And I know that those issues have been considered, Tracy assured, even those that were a bit late. There has been consideration to the views expressed by those public. And I'd just like to say how glad I am that regarding the COVID-19, we've got not only 20 mile per hour in the High Street, but also up Market Hill. And I'm very much hoping, and I have been talking about this with officers and others, hopefully it may be that is something that can be looked at. But I do appreciate the most important thing is to get the transport strategy done. And I've been given assurances that when able, due to COVID, that will start. Surveys will be carried out and evidence will be supplied, which will give a good illustration of what measures need to perhaps be considered and applied and decided on to improve the situation regarding Malden in terms of air quality and other issues, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nunn.
Thank you very much, Chairman. As a matter of record and for the minutes, please, could Tara please record that despite Market Hill being fairly and squarely in my ward and the ward of Councillor May's, the North Ward, we only joined this working group by invitation at the last meeting, which was the 24th of June. As such, we've had very limited involvement or input in terms of this paper. Having said that, I personally would like to thank Tracy Farrell for her excellent work in pulling this together, and I certainly support the submission that's been made, but I think it needs to be made clear that our involvement has been very limited. However, I and Councillor Mays continue to receive feedback from the residents of Market Hill, and rather embarrassingly so far we've had to say, well, we've had very limited involvement in this. But I think what's really important is that there's a clear communication strategy targeted at those residents, informing them exactly what's going on. Thank you, Chairman.
Miss Bird, will you make a note of that request, please?
Yes, yes, of course, Chairman.
Councillor White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm not on video because I'm at work, but just to say that I'd like to second the good work taken by Tracy on this matter. But what I would like to reiterate is I have been contacting Kevin Bentley and some of the other county councillors to try and fast track this scheme to improve it at an even faster rate so we can tie it into the High Street and the grant that we've received there. Because of coronavirus, and I have been asking that it is fast tracked on, but I haven't really had a lot of response from County Council that it is something that I'm continuing to work on, because as far as I'm concerned, although this is a really good piece of work, the sooner we can put a trial in, it might be a permanent solution, but I'd like to see trials going in as fast as possible. But thank you very much.
Councillor Swain. Councillor Swain, you still with us?
Yes, thank you. A number of points really. We need to bear in mind that the point of this exercise is to deal with the air quality on Market Hill, and I want to be wary of other ideas being infiltrated if they are not necessary for that purpose, including the ideas that some people have of pedestrianisation or one-way working in the high street. We have to bear in mind that the transport strategy envisaged there as a major item, which might deal with the whole problem, may not be feasible for the bus gate or one-way working or whatever. That remains to be seen. So we need alternative sets of measures which we can get on with. One is enforcement of the 7.5 weight load on Market Hill. We could press ahead with getting the 288, a dedicated 288 retrofitted as under grant, and we could see better advanced signage of directing traffic. There are a number of things which don't seem to have been really looked at in so far. One is the significant point made when the modelling was done that a significant percentage of the pollution was not really generated on Market Hill at all, but was coming in from, obviously, from the Causeway Heybridge area. So I think signage in the Heybridge area might help to divert some traffic, perhaps along Holloway Road, which people in Holloway Road may not like. The second thing is to consider lights at Fullbridge. I don't see why extreme measures need to be taken if we can improve things better, the traffic flow better around the whole Tesco, Blackwater area. Perhaps can we investigate the idea of a lower limit than 7.5 tonnes for Market Hill? Overall, we need monitoring, regular monitoring and up-to-date data, and bear in mind some the longer-term trends that are taking place, such as big decline in the use of diesels and the introduction of certain electric cars. On some major items here, it does highlight the need for attention to possible park and ride sites around Heybridge and Malden. There seems to have been a complete blank spot in the LDP, and we really need to be looking at, bear in mind, the scope for park and ride sites in any major developments. The last point, which in the medium term, longer term, is to ensure that the outer road of the North Heybridge Garden suburb is completed as a priority to reduce the traffic flow around Heybridge to get out towards the Hatfield-Peveril Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Swain. Before I come back to the leader to sum up, can I ask Ms Farrell if she wishes to respond to anything that's been said?
Just to hopefully reassure Councillor Swain that this particular piece of work had to really focus on the area where there was an exceedance on the Market Hill. So what's really good is that out of that we've got this Malden-wide plan which will look at further afield. So we needed to sort of really focus in on that area, and moving forward we will extend that out. And also just to reassure him really that there is a lot of monitoring carrying on and ongoing to support any further works. Thank you.
Thank you. Now somebody that's come in after I said that I'll go back to the leader to sum up. Councillor Siddle, you wish to speak?
Yes, Chairman, thank you very much for allowing that. I'd just like to give my feedback in terms of the report that was presented to Strategy and Resources in January, and I was probably quite a harsh critic of that report in January, and I know I gave the officer particularly hard time in the chamber. What I would like to say is I'm really pleased with the report that's come to council now and how it's been produced and the sensible solutions that we're now looking to implement and to move forward with Essex County Council. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Siddle. Very helpful. Leader, would you like to sum up, please?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. Yeah, I'm grateful for the comments of all the members, and I think a lot of the comments that were made by Councillor Swain, a lot of those we picked up when we look at the transport strategy. As far as the comments made by Councillor Nunn regarding communications, he'll remember from the working group meeting we had last that that was something that was very much in my forefront. And what we're actually doing, Chairman, is we're harvesting the contact details of everybody that's who lives on Market Hill, and to keep them up to date and informed as part of the communication plans that supports this project. So hopefully he'll remember that, and the other members will be in the comfort zone. So that's a good piece of work for our residents, because I personally think we should keep them up to date. Chairman, I've actually made the recommendation, I believe, and that said, yeah. I'd ask you to put the question. Thank you.
Okay. Tara, would you like to call the roll, please? Members, it's if you agree the recommendation, it's for. If you're against, it's against. If you wish to abstain, it's abstain. Tara?
Thank you, Chairman. So starting Councillor Bamford, please.
For.
Councillor Bassinger.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Miss Beale.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Brian Beale.
For.
Councillor Boyce.
Abstain.
Mrs. Channer.
Thank you, Tara. For.
Councillor Durham is for. Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs. Fleming.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Fluker.
For.
Councillor Harker.
For.
Councillor Hurd.
For.
Councillor Helm.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Hull.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Jarvis.
For.
Councillor Keys.
For.
Councillor Lagan.
Against.
Councillor Mays.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Morley.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Morris.
Not enough debate or consultation. Abstain.
Councillor Nunn.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Shaughnessy.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Siddle.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Stamp.
4.
Councillor Stilts.
4.
Councillor Swain.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs Thompson.
4.
Thank you. And Councillor Miss White.
4.
Thank you, Chairman. I can advise the result of that vote is 25 for, 1 against and 2 abstaining. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Tara. That is therefore carried. We now move on to agenda item 9, human resources policies and procedures, found on pages 149 to 172. Leader, would you like to present the report?
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, this is a very short report. It's just something that we should have done before, but we haven't for some unknown reason. So it forms very much part of an update, Chairman, and I would propose that we agree both recommendations. Thank you.
Is that seconded?
Seconded.
Seconded.
Seconded, Chairman.
Councillor Nunn, Councillor Lagan first, and then Councillor Nunn. Councillor Lagan.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions, really, on 3.1, with the summary of key issues. It's noted that sickness levels continue to be low and within target, with continuing HR support to managers, and this means that the sickness levels are no longer a concern. I'd question that any sickness levels are actually are no longer a concern. In 3.2, there's a mention that the HR sickness statistics measuring the average number of days of lost time full-time equivalent to be reported. I think that's absolutely critical. And I think as a member of the Strategy and Resources Committee, I support the continuation of such data because it gives us a barometer as members on a regular basis of the real issues that are going on within the staffing levels at Malden District Council. So thank you, Chair. That's all I'd like to say.
Councillor Nunn.
Yes, sorry, Chair. I'm a bit confused now. Are we commenting on 9 and 10 then, or just 9 at the moment?
We're on 9, contained on pages 149 to 172.
Yeah, well, 9 is about procedures, isn't it?
9 is human resources policies and procedures.
Yeah, 9 is about procedures, isn't it? But 10 is about...
And 10 is statistics.
Yeah, so...
so one is policies and 1 is numbers.
Yes, so on 9 then, the issue about adopting HAY, the HAY procedure, could officers tell us what evaluation method they've been using up until now then?
I think, Councillor Nunn, that we've always used Hayes, but Mr. Dodson.
Sorry, Chairman, I was on mute there. Yes, we have used HAY previously. This is an update around the policy and procedures of HAY. So it's the revised job evaluation policy and procedure that is for approval. Thank you.
So Chair, it's a revision to HAY. It's not the adoption of HAY.
Again, I'd turn to Mr. Dodson to answer that. It's a revision and not an adoption. We're certainly not adopting it.
Sorry, could I defer to the Director of Resources who's tabled this report?
Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Leslie.
Thank you, Chairman. So we have always used HAY. The revision is in terms of the processes within the report. So HAY's always been used. We're still using HAY. What's changed is actually we're updating the policies to reflect the new structure that's coming. So it's that the policy aligns to the new structure. That's the change rather than a change to using HAY. Hopefully that helps.
Do you understand? Are you satisfied with that, Councillor Nunn?
Well, I do understand, Chairman. Yes, thank you. It's rather confusing though, isn't it? But what we're really doing then is we're adopting a revision to HAY.
Mr. Leslie?
No, we're sticking with Hay, but obviously the policy had references back to old structures within our council. So it's just aligning to the new structures. So where some things are out, like job descriptions or groups of grouping, for example, we're aligning.
It's a revised procedure.
Yeah, the procedure itself has been revised, but the Hay evaluation system remains in place.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Return to the leader now, leader, to sum up and put the recommendations, although they've already been put, I'm sorry, for you to sum up.
Grateful for the members for getting the clarification on the questions that they've asked. Chairman, I have put the recommendation and asked you a question. Thank you.
Tara, would you call a roll, please? Again, members, 4, against, abstain.
Thank you, Chairman. Starting with Councillor Bamford, please.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Bassinger.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Miss Beale.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Brian Beale.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Boyce.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs. Channer.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Durham is 4. Thank you very much. Councillor Edwards.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs. Fleming.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Fluker. Councillor Fluker.
4.
Councillor Harker.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Hurd.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Helm.
4.
Councillor Hull.
4.
Councillor Jarvis.
4.
Councillor Keys.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Lagan.
Abstain, please, Tara.
Thank you. Councillor Mays.
4.
Councillor Morley.
4.
Councillor Morris.
Abstain.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nunn.
4.
Councillor Shaughnessy.
4.
Councillor Siddle.
4.
Councillor Stamp.
4. But I also note Stephen's, Councillor Nunn's comments, Tara.
Not relevant yet.
Still note them.
Stilts.
Sorry?
4.
Councillor Swain.
4.
Ms Thompson.
4.
And Councillor Miss White.
4.
Thank you. Chairman, the results of that vote are 25 for, nobody against, and 3 abstentions.
Thank you, Tara. That motion is therefore carried. And now we move on to agenda item 10, where I've already got speakers wishing to speak. Human resources statistics found on pages 173 to 174. 2 recommendations. Leader, would you like to present the paper, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. This is a straightforward recommendation by officers not to report statistical information to the Strategy and Resources Committee. Can I open, Chairman, by saying that staff welfare has always been a very, very important issue and taken very seriously by members. And I can remember my time, Chairman, when I was on the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and I led a piece of scrutiny which got a national award for staff surveys, and we got some fantastic feedback from our staff in those days. But Chairman, as far as these recommendations are concerned, Chairman, I would propose that Council. You okay? Yeah. Yeah, Chairman, I would propose that Council do not approve these recommendations and that they're discounted in favour of 3 new recommendations. And I'll go through those slowly so that everybody can hear them, and more importantly, Tara can make a note of them. So my proposal is, Chairman, that recommendation 1 is all staff statistics, including a summary of exit interviews, be reported to PGA on a quarterly basis. Recommendation 2, Chairman, that the process of analysing staff sickness is reported to the PGA committee. And finally, Chairman, that the terms of reference of PGA committee are updated accordingly. Chairman, in summary of the reasons behind those recommendations, I think it's absolutely tantamount and important that we get this information to PGA so that they can understand what the underlying statistics are of our staff. So, Chairman, those are my recommendations.
Is that seconded?
Chairman, I second that.
Thank you. That's the motion before us. Now I have Councillors Lagan and Councillor Nunn wish to speak. Councillor Lagan.
Thank you. I just wanted to apologise to members and yourself for speaking on the wrong agenda, but just to question the leader through you, Chair, of why remove it from the strategy resources.
Can you speak up? I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. I'm struggling at work in a small cupboard at the moment because of the times of the meeting.
I know the feeling. That's where I am.
Yeah, not as small as mine. I can promise you that. Back to the meeting anyway. I just wondered through the leader, the new recommendations proposed to go to the PGA. I'm struggling the thinking behind that to remove it from the strategy and resources. Just like to ask the leader the reason for that, just to educate myself.
Leader, do you want to respond to that now? Or
yeah, I will do. I mean, this is something that I've discussed with officers and with the chairman of PGA, and this is all around performance. So, in my mind, it should go to PGA. But I see that the chairman of the committee wishes to speak, so hopefully she'll still support me on this. Thank you.
Right, Councillor Nunn.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I'm pleased to say that the leader's suggested amendments have satisfied my concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Bamford, and then Councillor Harker, and then we've got a bit of a constitutional crisis. Carry on, Councillor Bamford.
Thank you, Chairman. I just would like, if possible, if we could have these revised recommendations clearly on the screen somehow, because my query is the third part of the recommendation, which I believe Councillor Fluke has said was an updated terms of reference for the PGA. Now, the PGA deal with performance, and if this is performance, then it rightly should go to PGA, but I don't understand why we need the terms of reference updated.
Chairman, if I could just come back on that.
Please do, Councillor Fluke.
Yeah, I think the thinking of that was really because we're going to have to change some terms of reference, because at the moment it's going to strategy and resources. So maybe a better recommendation at 3 would be to amend the terms of reference to strategy and resources. But I think I'll be guided.
That gets over my constitutional crisis that I mentioned.
So, Chairman, what I'll do, Chairman, I'll withdraw recommendation 3, and I'm grateful for the input of Councillor Bamford on this. I think what it needs to say is that the terms of reference to strategy and resources committee are updated accordingly. Hopefully, if I've got it right, she'll support that. Thank you.
I think that I think what we're doing, in effect, and Mr. Quelch will correct me if I'm wrong, is we're removing from the strategy and resources this issue and transferring it to PGA. Is that correct, Mr. Quelch?
Oh, that's absolutely right, Chairman. Yes.
Okay. So, do members understand that? Okay.
Yes, Chairman,
yes,
may I say something?
Well, I've got Councillor Harker to come before you, but I just want to get everybody to understand what the leader is proposing.
Well, it's to do with that, Chairman.
Okay, carry on, Councillor Mrs. Channer.
Thank you. Well, I perhaps see it a slightly different way, in that the performance yes is of HR goes to PGA, but is it not the policy matters of resources? etc., would remain with strategy and resources, because that's more policy based. So I see that there could be a dichotomy there anyway, maybe. So is there the need to remove it all wholesale from strategy and resources, whereas policy matters would go there regarding resources, but the actual performance, the statistics, the data, the quarterly requirements would naturally fall within PGA? And it could reflect that, I guess, but yeah, does it really need to highlight it?
I'll probably need help again from Mr. Quelch, but perhaps we can have something in about and subsequent amendments. Mr. Quelch.
Yes, Chairman. I mean, I haven't looked at the terms of reference of the two committees, but it strikes me just listening to the debate that if policy is with strategy and resources, which it must be, so all HR issues are with strategy and resources, the performance data will obviously have implications in relation to policy. And so if you divorce performance from the policy, that strikes me as rather strange, because you then have one committee dealing with performance, but it should be the performance that indicates, that drives what policy changes should take place. So then you have in effect two committees dealing with what appears to me to be the same issue.
Okay, that when I say I'll go back to my constitutional crisis. Thank you, Mr. Quelch. Leader, would you like to comment on this before I bring in Councillor Harker and Hurd?
Well, Chairman, I think the global thing here is performance, and we've heard, we've heard from the chairman of PGA that she sees this as performance. I see it as very much performance, and I think that's where this should sit. And of course, if strategy and resources set policies, that's fine. They can set the policy, and then PGA can actually monitor the performance against the policies. And if it's not working, they can send them back or ask S&R to reconsider them. But Chairman, I might give way at this stage to Councillor Bamford. I know that's ahead of Councillor Hurd, but I feel that she might want
I think it might be relevant to this actual issue. Councillor Bamford.
Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. Well, I'm a bit confused about this as well now. As far as I see it, PGA deals with performance and S&R deals with policy. That is not changing. So we don't need any terms of reference changes, because we're not going at PGA, we're not dealing with any policy issues. We're dealing with what's happening with the staff generally. If they're sick a lot, then perhaps we need to look at it, why the performance is not happening as it should be. That's how I see it. And I think that's what we're really looking at. We're not looking at changing policy.
I'm advised that the S&R terms of reference state receive reports on human resources statistics, which is present with S&R. So if that goes to PGA, then the terms of reference will have to be changed for strategy and resources.
Okay, I understand. But if they are having those statistics, then are they being recommended that the policy changes because of those statistics? The answer probably is no. So why are those statistics going to S&R? So we do need to change. So I think I agree with the recommendations that have been made. But I would say, Mr. Chairman, that the whole point of this report was really to say that these reports were not going to S&R. That's what the point of it was. Yes. And we're saying, yes, they should still go somewhere.
Right. Now I've got Councillor Harker and Hurd. Councillor Harker.
these reports do come to S&R, and this is a takeover bid by PGA. These reports, it was quite clear that council's decisions, all reports for noting, are placed in the members' room, and then they're inserted on the agenda of S&R. And if a member wants to query anything on the report, it can be brought up at S&R. And we've had this conversation some time ago with the director, and it was agreed that these reports would go to S&R. We had to be careful here because we're starting to fiddle around with operational issues which are not in our remit, particularly asking for exit interview stuff as well. That's covered by the data protection. So we're in danger of getting ourselves confused and making a complete mess. I think the report should still go to S&R. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think the leader might wish to raise an issue here. Leader?
Chairman, I'll give way to the monitoring officer, Chairman, because I see he's got his hand raised. But all I was going to say is that by exception, reports on staff statistics do go to committees for notice.
Okay, Mr. Quelch.
Yes, thanks very much, Chairman. Would it be better in these circumstances, because there obviously is an issue about the terms of reference, and also an issue as to if statistics are to go to a committee, which committee do they go to? That sounds to me to be the issue now, not whether they go to a committee, but to which committee they go. Would it be better, therefore, that a report comes back to a subsequent council meeting dealing with this particular point? If members are saying they want the information to go to a committee, then we can look at sort of, rather in the cool of the day, what the terms of reference are exactly of each committee and the remit of each committee, and come back to council with information.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. I'll just ask I've got 3 more councillors wish to speak before I ask the leader what he thinks of your suggestion. Councillor Hurd.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't wish to speak. I was merely trying to canvass the views of other members. The sound quality is very poor for me. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Channer, did you want to come back?
Well, thank you, Chairman. Just as I did second the leader's proposal. So there is a proposal on the table, Chairman.
Yes, I know. Councillor Siddle.
Thank you, Chairman. One of the things that looking at this is, if you look at the names of the committees, strategies and resources is to do with resourcing. Human resources is a resource to do with staffing. So logically, to me, the right place for this, probably, I agree with Councillor Harker. To me, yeah, my view is it still comes to strategy and resources, because we are dealing with resourcing issues at that particular committee. But I go with, Mr. Quelch, in fact, perhaps we need to look at this in more detail, and a more detailed report come back to see where it best fits.
Thank you. I think that concludes everybody. Oh, Councillor Morris wishes to speak. Councillor Morris.
Just a quick note, I do believe that it would be better if we had more information than not enough. So whatever information the council has asked for, they should be supplied with. Thank you.
Well, I don't think that they were trying to stop anybody getting information. Leader, would you like to sum up your position, please?
Okay, Chairman. Well, clearly there is some concern whether this should stay at S&R or it should stay at or it should go to PGA. I actually think we need to take another look at this, Chairman, and I would propose that recommendation 1 is revised, and it says that members do want statistics, all staff statistics, including exit interviews, reported to the relevant committee. and the corporate governance working group chairman takes a look at this and reports back to council to decide which committee it should go to, and then we can look at process and we can get this right. I don't know if anybody would be prepared to second that, but it makes it clear.
Can I just point out, you'll need to withdraw the motion that you've already speaking to.
Well, Chairman, I will withdraw it, I think, because there's so much confusion.
Okay.
There's so much confusion over this.
I'll second the next one.
Okay.
You know, I think this
so basically it's a referral back.
Yes. Well, Chairman, I think it is a referral back, but making it absolutely clear that we want all of this information reported to committees. I hear the argument about exit interviews, but we used to get that information. They were done in summary. And I think, to be honest, you know, if it was obvious who the person was, maybe that wasn't reported, because GDPR is important to abide by. But I think that's perhaps where we should go. And I think that the corporate governance working group is probably due to meet soon anyway. If not, we can have a meeting and then we can kick this about the benefit of the monitoring.
Okay, that's proposed and duly seconded. Do members agree that this is referred to corporate governance working group?
Yes.
Agreed.
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 Thank you. That shall be so. We then move on to agenda item 11, which, if I can catch myself up, supplementary estimates, environments and use of reserves, 1st of October to the 2019 to the 31st of May 2020, found on pages 175 to 178. Leader.
Could I just declare that I made one of these environments, I authorised one of the environments as an interest. Thank you.
Okay, well, likewise, but that's mentioned in the report. Chairman, this is very much what it is, so I would propose, Chairman, that we agree both recommendations. Thank you.
Is that seconded?
Yes.
Yes, seconded.
Yes.
Is there any dissent? Can I say that's agreed by acclamation?
Agreed.
Councillor Lagan wishes to speak. Councillor Lagan wishes to speak. Councillor Lagan.
Agreed.
All it was, Chair, thank you, was on page 176 under item number 3. It said external investigation of complaints budget approved by Councillor Fluker and Harker on the 3rd of the 3rd, 03. I think it just needs to be maybe typed a typo there, sir.
Okay, thanks for that. But generally, by acclamation, that recommendation is carried.
Agreed.
We go on to agenda item 12. Agenda item 12. Rivers patrols and enforcement, found on pages 179 to 195. Leader, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think most of us know the history of this. This is basically changing our budget and saving some money and going into partnership with the police so that we can deliver on our statutory obligation to enforce on the River Blackwater. Chairman, there is a couple of questions have been raised whether or not this should be a service level agreement or a memorandum of understanding. My understanding is because the proposed partnership is non-financial, i.e. Morden District Council are not paying a consideration for Essex Police to provide the service, an MOU is better term of agreement as opposed to a service level agreement. The council and the police are two statutory bodies as well, who should be working together, and an MOU allows for both parties to do that for mutual benefit. And of course, should either party not meet the requirements of the MOU, the other party can exit the contract with no legal consequences. So, Chairman, we do need to enforce on the river. It is getting a bit of a problem. Chairman, I'll give way to, I was going to give way to the officers anyway but I wanted to clear up that point, and then I'll come back to deal with the recommendations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Harmer, is it you or Mr. Holmes that wishes to kick off?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members. I'm quite happy to take any questions on this, if you like. I think, first of all, what we need to accept is that the police approached the council based on the success of our previous a personal watercraft team, and it's taken a while to get this far. There was a false start where their management decided at sort of the 11th hour last time that they weren't prepared, or they didn't have the resources to undertake this. And actually, it was quite fortuitous that they did. They contacted us when they actually did this time, rather than us go out and buy a rib and then they contact us. So what they're actually doing is, in offering us this partnership working, is they're offering us a place at their table. And I'm not just talking about simply enforcement using personal watercraft. What we also have is a dedicated police officer for the River Blackwater. So if there are any issues whatsoever, we can go straight to him, and he will provide us a targeted response. That officer is also one of a very small number of drone operators for Essex Police, and in my discussions with them, they have offered that as a resource, as well as land-based assets as well.
Thank you, Mr. Harmer. Mr. Wilson, did you wish to add anything?
You're muted, Matt.
I am. I apologise. No, Chairman, nothing further to add to the report detail.
Thanks very much. I have questions, Councillor Swain and Councillor Lagan. Councillor Swain.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of points. Where would these two PWCs be stationed? And secondly, is there some special training that people need, particularly if they're going to be sort of additional backup officers?
The PWCs would be based at probably Burnham or at Boreham Airfield, which is where they keep all their motor vehicles. As far as training goes, yes, the police do have their own RYA affiliated training establishment, but certainly all of the officers that would be using it would need to meet their criteria, as well as any national criteria as well.
Thank you. Councillor Lagan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just interested, really, because we haven't been that successful in PWCs in the past, from finding out previous history, Nigel. Also, there's a large statement about that we could increase the prosecutions, and we would have to fund those prosecutions as the district council. What previous level of prosecution and income did that bring to the council? And what do you think? Because obviously I get that we do have a serious challenge on the river with speeding and antisocial behaviour, etc., etc. But what sort of benefit will this bring rather than the presence? Will we actually see a financial return to us by the investment that we could be making?
Well, firstly, I should explain that with all bylaws, the money goes directly to the Crown, who are the main holders of the main legislation, and a bylaw is just a derivation of that main body of legislation. So all of the income would go to the Crown. Having said that, we could put in, and I'm sure Mr. Quelch would be happy to expand on this, the costs we would be awarded to the council. So certainly we couldn't look at it as a money-making scheme, but we could certainly look at it as covering its costs.
Thank you, Mr. Harmer. Thank you. Leader.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I would propose, therefore, having listened to Mr. Harmer and his words being echoed by Mr. Wilson and what the members have said, I think, Chairman, we should agree the recommendations and move forward this as quickly as possible. So to echo Councillor Lagan's word that we deal with these speeding vessels and antisocial behaviour on the river as quickly as possible. Thank you, Chairman. I so propose.
Is that seconded?
Yes.
Yes, seconded.
Is that acclamation?
I have a question, please, Chairman. Councillor Hurd has a question.
Councillor Hurd, please.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, it's very bad reception here. I think I heard from Mr. Harmer that it could be kept at Boreham. Is that correct?
Yes, he said that. But he said it would be Burnham or possibly Boreham. So
right,
your
okay.
question is...
My question is, how quickly can we expect a response, and how exclusive is our access to it, please?
I thought you covered that, Mr. Harmer, but please try and help Mr. Hurd.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course, Mr. Chairman. The response would be probably along the same lines as had they been solely owned by Malden District Council. If there is an issue afloat, then if the machines are afloat at that time, then it would be quite rapid. However, if let's say they were based at the depot at the Parks Department as the old ones used to be, then you're probably looking at a couple of hours before we could actually get on site to start taking some enforcement action. Having said that, the police do have those other assets, so they have the drone if necessary, and they also have the land assets. So if we could say that there was a problem at let's say a launching ramp in Maylandsea, then a land asset would get there an awful lot quicker and start to take action.
Thank you, Mr. Harmer. I broke my own rules in allowing another question after the proposal had been put, but I think the recommendation has been put and has seconded. So therefore, is there any dissent to this?
No.
No. I therefore say the motion is carried, and we move on to agenda item 13, which is rather a strange one.
Sorry, Chairman, just before we move on, can I just confirm that members are agreeing the recommendations in the report?
Yeah, I thought they agree by...
Yes, we are agreeing.
Just need to check. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Now, this is a strange one. To agenda item 13, amendment to minutes detailed on page 4 of the agenda for the reasons outlined. Leader, would you like to explain?
Well, Chairman, I'm not quite sure how it came to us, but clearly there was a mistake in the minutes and they were approved by members. So I think we're trying to unravel that, Chairman. So I would propose that we agree to amend the minutes, Chairman.
Is that seconded?
Yes.
Agreed.
I have another question. I have another question, please.
Councillor Hurd, was that you want a question? Councillor Hurd.
Yes, I have. I think that. Sorry.
Carry on. Councillor Hurd, carry on, please.
No, sorry. I'll leave it. Sorry, I'll leave that. I'm on the wrong part there. Sorry.
Okay. I think again, Tara, we have put this question and there's been no dissent, so it's acclamation again.
Great.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
Great. Then we go on to question 14, questions to the Leader of the Council in accordance with Procedure Rule 13M. Any member wish to ask a question of the Leader? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are none. I'll move on to agenda item 15. Business by reason of special circumstances considered by the chairman to be urgent.
Sorry, I have a question for the Leader. I have a question for the Leader.
Councillor Morris.
My chat function doesn't seem to ever be working. I've asked IT to sort it a few times and no one gets back to me. I have a question for the Leader, please.
I'll allow you to ask the question.
Oh, you're gracious. Thank you. I'd just like to ask Councillor Fluker that if, as expected, the disgraceful decision that was reached at his Joint Standards Committee, where he admitted to homophobia, bullying and threats, if it's found that that has been a predetermined decision and has brought the council into disrepute, will those councillors be encouraged by himself to step down from all committees to save any further loss of reputation to Malden District Council?
Leader, I don't know whether you wish to answer that question, which I would think is not really appropriate, but it's up to you.
Chairman, I will respond, of course. I mean, following the meeting of Council on the 23rd of June, sorry, Chairman. A report is coming to the next council meeting with regards to the Joint Standards Committee, where the new Joint Standards Committee is going to be formed. And that will be a matter that the Joint Standards Committee will consider going forward. Once we get the Joint Standards Committee in place, all of those comments that you've made will be taken into consideration to the Joint Standards Committee, and they will make recommendations accordingly. But I can't comment on the work of the Joint Standards Committee. But one thing is sure, we are planning to move all of these issues forward as quickly as we possibly can, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We then go on to 15, business by reason of special circumstances considered by the chairman to be urgent. I have none. We go on to agenda item 16, which is exclusion of the public and press, and I will make the proposition. We now move into private session, and I move that under section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 1972, that the public and press be excluded from the meeting during the consideration of the following item of business, on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A to the Act, and that this satisfies the public interest test in relation to the leisure contract. Is that seconded?
Seconded,
Chairman.
Agreed.
Is that agreed?
Yes.
Agreed.
Thank you. Tara, has the live link been severed yet? Will you please confirm when it has?
Chairman, I'm just confirming that for you. Won't keep you a moment.